Well, for me, it actually began with a science project for our daughter in 6th grade. She had chosen, I don't know why, but she had chosen what different reactions yeast has to different feeders or sources of energy for that, for food. And so I helped her on that project, and we tried things like sugar and grape juice and apple juice and orange juice and just the yeast without anything, and compared the results. So that got me a little bit interested in yeast. And then I just started from that to just starting to apply it to bread. And I learned so much as I went through that process with her and those first attempts at making bread that it just kind of hooked me on the science of it, the precision of it that is needed for bread making.
We really define ourselves as a scientist and an artist in the kitchen because we cook that way. That's really our personalities. And I learned how to cook with my mom in the kitchen and then in a farmhouse. And so we cooked with a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So that is really our personal styles. So I try not to do anything with yeast, and he does everything with yeast.
Well, for me, it's a standard country white loaf like what we have here, what we enjoyed today. I've recently, over the last 6 years, began experimenting with sourdough, and only really recently in the last 2.5 years, had much success at it. And so it's been a lot of fun. But one of my favorite ones to make is a brioche bread, simply because of the design and the pan that it comes in. It comes in a floret type pan that you make it in, and it's just a pretty bread once it's made.
My favorite bread that he does is croissants, and especially when he does chocolate croissants, they're out of this world. Well, I think that for me, I see every time we gather people at our table as a recreation of what I believe the wedding feast is going to be like when we all, gather in eternity. And so I try to, when people sit at my table, I want them to feel that sense of love that we will feel when we are there with Christ at the wedding banquet. And so I want every little detail to be intentional and special so that the people that sit at our table know how much they are loved, not only by the Ericksons, but by God himself, and how special they are to him and to us.
And for me, it's really just that making people feel special, giving them an unexpected gift. I usually bake a loaf of bread usually every Saturday that we're here, because that's one of my Saturday habits is baking bread, either Saturday or Sunday. And Sunday or Monday, I usually give at least 3 out of every 4 loaves away. And it's just a way of making people feel special. Very often when I'm baking it, I don't know who I'm baking it for. I'm just baking it to enjoy the process of it myself, and then to give it away. And many times, those individuals were just blessed. There's a billboard out there that says the secret ingredient is caring. The truth of the matter is even our grandchildren know the secret ingredient is love. Yeah. And everything we bake, everything we do when we host people in here, it's just a gift of love from us that we are able to give back to people and share with them. And so for us, the secret ingredient is simply sharing Christ's love many times through hospitality and food. Rest is really renewal. And however you find that renewal, you find the rest that regenerates you from time to time for the days that you have ahead. And I enjoy baking bread And the experimentation of it, yes, I'm the scientist, as she said, but the experimentation of different recipes and different techniques in the bread baking is relaxing to me. It takes my mind off of the problems of the world. It takes my mind off the task I have to do, and just allows me to just rest my mind. And that in turn renews me for all the aspects of what God has called me to do. Well, the creativity of it is also renewing, in the sense, again, that my creativity is not in the bread itself, in the mixing of the dough. That is fairly straightforward, but in the final touches of when I'm making a sourdough, the scoring of the top, of playing with different designs to see how they come out. And many of them have been very beautiful. Some of them have been failures. But it's just been the fun, exciting time of seeing how it's going to develop, because when you cut it, you know what you've cut. But until the bread expands in the oven and really reveals the scoring that's been done, you don't understand how it's going to look.
Well, I'm inspired by the way Jesus did life around the table. And he ate with every person you could even imagine, sinners, Pharisees, and he engaged with people. And so I've really learned that we can learn a lot about people when we invite them to our table, people that maybe we wouldn't necessarily find in our circle of friends. But food has a way of bringing us together and brings cultures together. And so I've learned to be more accepting of people outside my culture, and to bring people to my table that maybe I wouldn't invite necessarily into a close circle of friends, but that shared meal and shared experience. Really, I've learned to embrace people and all of who they are. And I think that food has a way of doing that, and being at the table and just seeing how Jesus modeled ministry around the table has inspired me to do the same.
And it's always amazing when you, as Susie was saying, you get someone around the table, how they open up. You don't often have to ask questions about life or different things. Just as you converse about things around the table, they begin to share life. They begin to share circumstances. They begin to share things that have happened in their life. And you get to know them a little bit better, even as we did around the table this afternoon for lunch.
And speaking of which, thank you for having us. And thank you for being on the show and sharing your passion with us. We're grateful. This has been amazing.